It is Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was yet another non-virtual get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Wednesday. I gotta say, I'm starting to really feel that guilt. And guilt that tells me that I really should have stayed for at least one roll. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the connotation on the idea of competition is what's kind of driving me away there. And I'm not really going to go into that at the moment, but I think it's something that kind of intimidates me, and I don't know why really. Sometimes I feel like I'm carrying a lot of baggage from the last place that I was training, and it's kind of impeding me from pushing myself a little further, than I have been. But yeah, all told, it was a really good session. It was. I'm trying to remember exactly where it started at, because it seemed to me that it started in Z-Guard, but I could be wrong. I don't know. The whole week has just been one big blur so far as my training goes. I have been going every single day this week, although oddly enough, I came in at 1 pound over today, which it's kind of disappointing me. It's kind of concerning me. I'm trying to figure out exactly what changes might have happened in my diet that could be accounting for that, and I've come up with a few. Ideas of where my additional caloric intake may be, and so yeah, I'm gonna have to make some adjustments. I tend to keep myself relatively on an even keel, and so that, like, if I do push myself a little extra hard or a little harder than I normally do, I tend to lose weight. But this last week, I've just been putting on weight. But, it's funny because I tend to put on weight when I'm not getting stuff done. And this week, I think I've probably gotten more done this week than I have in about a month. As far as, really big changes that I really, really had to address that, for whatever reason, I let sit. I've been really good to address them this week, and so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm a little bit disappointed. Like I said, that I didn't stay around for a couple rolls. I need some rolls. If not rolls, at least more reps. Although I felt pretty confident with a lot of the movements for today. Just all around, that extra weight has really been kind of slugging me down, and I've been dragging around. I want to say like 3 or 4 extra pounds this week, and it's not making me happy. It's making me not happy. But as far as actual technique today, there were a couple hip situations, and again, that always seems to be my issue. Is anywhere from like my knees to my lower back is like if it requires some sort of how should I say it, some sort of dexterity or aptitude in that vicinity of my body, I kind of have a little difficulty, but I'm working through it. But today one of my training partners was quizzing me as when I was leaving. He's like, "Oh, so you're gonna leave?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I think that's one of the things that's kind of weighing on me, that I should have just said, "You know what? No, I'm gonna fucking stay for a little bit longer just so I can kick your ass." I don't know. It's been a weird thing that I've been dragging around, and it's like some stupid excuse that, for some reason, it keeps bubbling up and stopping me from staying the full duration, or at least longer. I've been making the full training session every time, But like I said, the last week I've just been really sluggish, and it's really starting to piss me off. So, like I said, I've got to make some sort of adjustment in what I've been doing, because obviously some sort of change is needed. But yeah, I feel like, competency wise on technique, I am starting to get somewhere with that. But at the same time, I feel like either the training regimen or something, it's not as intense as I need, because I can push myself pretty good, but I do need a little kick in the ass now and then, and so, like, when people are lackadaisical and stuff, that really puts me off, and it kind of makes me be lackadaisical about it too, and that's the part that pisses me off more than anything, is my own lack of effort. That's a reflection of their lack of effort. And I think I was having this trouble in the last place that I was training for a little while, where one of the trainers kept showing up drunk or high or whatever, and wasn't coming prepared with a class plan ahead, and so it's like I was getting apathetic, because it was obvious to me that this person, I cared more about my training than that person did, and that person is a black belt, so what the fuck. That's where I was feeling it. It's like, this person is a black belt, and I've got a more positive attitude on what I'm doing than they do. What the fuck? Am I just wasting my time? Am I going to end up acting like them? Where I get a black belt and all of a sudden, I don't have to learn anything, and I don't have to really care about what I'm doing, and I can just kind of phone in the classes, and everything's going to be cool. I mean, because if that's what being a black belt is, then you fucking keep that shit. But my experience of black belts has been a strong deviation from that attitude. So that's one of the reasons why I stay with it, is because the vast majority of the people that I know or that I've met who have actually attained a black belt are very, very humble individuals, very, very positive individuals. Not all of them, most of them. So, anywho, but yeah, my own situation is I feel like I need to push myself harder, and yeah, I'm just finding too many excuses not to. I'm sure I will resolve it in the not so distant future, though. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And we haven't been playing Body Count for our first dance, and I've been missing it. And so I think it's that time again. And so here we go. Bum Rush, First Dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was Cold Chamber with Big Truck. And hopefully my program's gonna catch up to me and shit, but anywho, that's one of those bands that I never really got into. I got one album by them, and that was it. And I picked it up because of that song. Actually, I really dig that song. There's actually a few others on that album that I kind of love. Like Sway or Loco, both those excellent songs. But for whatever reason, I never really got into them. I mean, never really embraced them and whatever. And they've got this whole I want to say it's almost like ICP. Their kind of connection with their I don't know how to explain it. It's a lot of their video material reminded me of ICP's videos, and so it was just like, okay, well, it's ICP, But it's all from that kind of like new metal era, you know. And some of you guys are familiar with new metal, but you know you've got like Korn. You know they were kind of like the progenitors of it, but you'd have to go back to that period of time, and it was a really weird time. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like you had hair metal, right? And then you had Slayer came and just like completely rattled everybody, and then and Metallica came and really rattled everybody. And Metallica, they were like Meshuggah of now, where like everybody is cribbing their shit, kind of like this show. You know, everybody cribs Frank Dashwood. Anyway. But everybody was cribbing Metallica from Ride the Lightning on, and also Megadeth. They were another one where everybody was copying their shit, and like Yngwie Malmsteen and a few others. But like Yngwie, his period was before hair metal. He was like between hair metal 1 and hair metal 2. Like there were actually 2 waves of hair metal. But anyway, so you know, you get up there to Metallica, and on until I want to say Injustice for All. Like the Black Album was such a disappointment to so many people. But at the same time, you had Anthrax with Persistence of Time, and I think it was Slayer with Seasons of the Abyss, or In the Abyss rather. They were kind of filling in that period, and Prong actually had a very brief period from Beg to Differ, which I still have yet to upload to my pewter. I don't know why I don't have that thing on here. Beg to Differ on through until what was it? Cleansing. Up until Cleansing, they had this little run in there, and a little bit with Rude Awakening as well. But their primary run was you know, when they were really popular on Headbangers Ball and whatnot, was during that time. But there was this period in between where like grunge had picked up, and it kind of displaced a lot of that stuff, but then it fell off really quick. Like a lot of the lead guys and shit were having major issues with heroin, and heroin had taken a really hard toll on hair metal as well. Like, was it Nikki Sixx fucking crashed out on stage because he fucking OD'd. I mean, come on now. How fucking metal do you have to get, right? He basically died on stage. But they revived him. Everything was cool. But anyway, so there was this period of time where, you know, it's kind of in between, you know, where Metallica had really dropped the ball with the Black Album, and some would say that was like their most popular album. In some sense, it was, in that it was the one that got the broadest reception. But I would say that a lot of it was because of the expectations set by Injustice for All. And Injustice for All, I love that album and I hate that album. You know, I love that album in that it was a major trendsetter, in that a lot of the tone, the sound, it was completely alien to the average frame of what was going on in metal, and it was a bit more cerebral than a lot of people were expecting, I think. And it was the album that they should have gotten the critical acclaim that they deserved, but they did not. They had to sell their asses and hire Bob Rock or whatever and fuck that all up and release the Black Album. and what was it? Enter Sandman. That was like their big one on that album. That and there were quite a few others that the mainstream kind of latched on to. And everybody's got to have their bit of Metallica that they like, right? And who am I to deny them? But for those of us that were fans of Metallica, like from Kill 'Em All forward, which I was, my own birth into liking Metallica was kind of weird, because I was introduced to Metallica by a girl, and that was a whole weird thing altogether. But she was like pretty much my best friend, Renee, from I want to say 7th grade on through high school, and like it was almost like a marriage. And a lot of people thought we were going to get married because, this relationship lasted pretty much. It lasted so long that everybody knew about it, as far as us two being friends. And she, I don't know how, but she had this weird connection where she was familiar with a lot of what was going on in San Francisco at the time. And Metallica was really, really big back then in San Francisco. And amazingly enough, I had this Music Plus really, really close to me. And she, lived right next door to it. So, if something came out that she wanted, she'd go over there. She'd be like, hey, look this up, order this, and please get this for me. And there were a few albums that she had that she liked, but she either got another copy of or a different copy of, and she wanted to kind of offload a few of them. Well, one of them that she was going to offload onto me was Kill 'Em All, but she copied it onto a tape for me, and I think what was it? Creeping Death. She'd recorded Creeping Death onto a tape for me as well. And so, that was my introduction into Metallica. And, what most people don't understand is that was the Napster of the day, is cassette tapes. Is people would dub off their own copies of purchased copies and either sell them or give them away to friends. And that's how these bands gained popularity. That it was a means of getting around that was completely outside of the normal recording industry. And amazingly enough, Metallica actually got in on it themselves. And I don't know if they were the first band to do this, but they were making bootleg copies of their own T-shirts and selling those for cheaper outside through certain vendors and whatnot. But that's like one of those tricks that you just I don't know. I don't know if that's one of the tricks of the trade that is mentioned or not, but hey, brothers got to get by, brothers got to make some money. But the whole bootlegging thing, that was because they were carrying a recording device in, strapped to a boot of their leg, of their pants. Bootlegging. Anyway, I don't know where I got off on that. And that was my introduction into Metallica. Was I went to Music Plus, and either she had purchased it or she couldn't buy it or something, and it was there. But I bought my first Metallica album from there, and actually several others. And I got Kill 'Em All, and that was a really important step for me. Because it was metal that was something that was never going to be played on the radio. I mean, maybe Hit the Lights or a few others like Four Horsemen or something like that. But that would be like KNAC would play that, or Pirate Radio would play that. And those themselves were stations that, amazingly enough, were quite popular where I lived. But they weren't in the they weren't songs that you would be hearing in say the background of a TV show or something like that. You know, they weren't in the top 40, or they weren't widely recognized or desired by the recording industry as a whole. They still managed to get by. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get into today, got a lot of good stuff. And let's start with this one. It's on decrypt.co. Bitcoin price volatility won't affect Fed policy, St. Louis Fed president. And this is authored by Jeff Benson. It is authored on February 16th, 2021. But yes, penis. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis is conducting a fair amount of research about where cryptocurrency is taking the future of money. That doesn't mean it thinks that cryptocurrency is money. Appearing on CNBC's Squawk Box today to talk about the price of Bitcoin reaching $50,000, $51,000 by the way. Oh shit, it's up to 52, shit. St. Louis Fed President Jim Bullard said, BTC is more like gold than currency, not that matters. Quote, for Fed policy, it's going to be a dollar economy for as far as the eye can see, and a dollar global economy really as far as the eye can see, he said. And whether the gold price goes up or down, or the Bitcoin price goes up or down, doesn't really affect that. The St. Louis Fed is one of 12 Federal Reserve banks whose presidents help inform the monetary policy of the U.S. central banking system. Bullard has been in that role since 2008, and he was reappointed for another 5-year term in January. In 2014, The Economist ranked him as the 7th most influential economist in the world. The reason Bullard can't ignore Bitcoin for monetary policy, he suggested, is because the Fed's been ignoring another popular store of value for half a century. Quote, the gold price has moved up and down since the 70s and 80s, and that doesn't affect Fed policy as far as I can tell, he said. As much as Bullard sees Bitcoin as a gold compatriot, or a competitor rather, he doesn't seem threatened by it because its price volatility makes it less desirable as a means of exchange. Quote, there's already currency competition globally. They have to meet all the same restrictions that all of us do that try to run a currency regime, he said. You have to have stability about future supply, and you have to have stable value against other goods and against other currencies. And private currencies aren't doing that. Actually, you know what, dude? You're completely fucking wrong. And I'll tell you why. This is a popular mistake. And it is popular because of the context and the tenor of the conversation, or the narrative rather, that people are fed through the TV. Okay, because they think that you can like hook credit cards to Bitcoin and shit, and it doesn't work like that. And those of us who are involved in this space understand that. Those of us who are not do not understand that. Now, there are ways to do things that make it appear that that's the case. You know, that you've moved a volume of US dollars via a Bitcoin transaction. But ultimately, you have to have somebody who has Bitcoin, who is willing to accept US dollars for it, and somebody who has US dollars and is willing to pay them or use them to pay for Bitcoin. You have to have that relationship. It has to exist somewhere. And that's where the rubber hits the road. There is no system where the two are interacting on a one-to-one basis. It just doesn't exist. So the idea that, the price of the value of the dollar is consistent at all times is a fallacy. And this is the underpinning fallacy that allows people like this monkey to get away with this bullshit assertion. It is a bullshit assertion. Bitcoin, he's talking about a steady supply. Once every 10 minutes, 6.5 Bitcoin are created. I think it's 6.5 or 6.25. I think it's 6.25 actually. 6.25 Bitcoin are created every 10 minutes. Some miner finds the block, gets it out to the rest of the network, verifies, bam, he gets Bitcoin. Block reward issued. 10 minutes. We have a consistent supply for future supply. And he says it right here. You have to have stability about future supply. We know how many Bitcoin will ever be created. 21 million Bitcoin will be created in like 120 years. We know the distribution schedule. We know approximately how many blocks we have before the next halvening. We have a rough idea of when that is going to happen. So this idea that there's anything arbitrary about the issuance of Bitcoin, its rate of issuance, how many will ever be issued, it's bullshit. We know this stuff. It's part of the agreement. When you decide to buy Bitcoin, you are agreeing to these terms about Bitcoin, these characteristics. You are investing in these characteristics of a monetary unit. A separate monetary unit from the US dollar, or in this case, a Federal Reserve note. Now, see, here's the thing. Let's get back to that fallacy that the Federal Reserve note has a consistent value over time. We already know that's bullshit. We already know that on face value and spending power, the Federal Reserve note has lost 99% of its face monetary value in terms of physical goods and commodities over the duration of its existence. 99% of that value is gone. See, before Bitcoin, there were only US denominated vehicles such as CDs or other paper means of transacting gold and silver on the open public markets, because people weren't taking actual receipt of gold or silver. They were exchanging certificates of gold and silver. And so you can manipulate it if you're manipulating the currency by which they're being valuated, i.e. the Federal Reserve note. But see, what makes Bitcoin appear to have a really volatile rate of exchange with the US dollar is the fact that people like this guy are waving that magic wand behind the scene and making up bales and bales and bales of Federal Reserve notes and issuing them out to the market. Telling banks, hey man, loan this money, get some physical value behind it. Get some representation behind it. Some actual collateral value. And when that happens, some of those bankers buy Bitcoin with it. And that makes the price of Bitcoin go up in relative value. But I had this discussion with somebody else the other day. And if you want to understand the volatility of Bitcoin and this relationship that I'm talking about, and it is that, it's a relationship between two separate currencies, the Federal Reserve note and Bitcoin, or an exchange rate rather. But it's not a quote-unquote price. It's an exchange rate, a relationship. But yeah, like I said, we're up to $52,000 per Bitcoin. And I tried explaining this, that like if you were to go back over the entire span of Bitcoin's existence in its value between US dollar and Bitcoin. So, you know, from the point it hit 1 cent forward. And there was a period of time when it was actually under 1 cent, but we won't go there. But from 1 cent forward, if you look at that chart, there are a few really notable spikes. And the first one, it jumped from, I think it was like $12 to $200 in a matter of hours. And that was very closely corresponding to the Federal Reserve's statement concerning QE1 and its issuance. I believe it was a reciprocal response to that. But then it went back down a little bit, but then it carried on for a while. The second one was at $600, where it jumped from, I want to say it was like $250 to $600 within a couple weeks. And this corresponded with the announcement of QE2. Now the third one everybody's familiar with because it corresponded with an event within Bitcoin, that being Mt. Gox. However, if Mt. Gox had not happened, the quote-unquote bubble would have exceeded the $1,000 cap that it reached. But that corresponded with the Federal Reserve's announcement of QE forever. And I'm not making this shit up. If you want to go back and you want to look for QE1, QE2, QE forever, look at the dates. Then look up the dates on the Bitcoin chart, and you will see it. It will correspond with, and like within a month period, the two events will correspond. And I think the Bitcoin bounce, the jump, actually happened before the announcement of the Federal Reserve. But I think that's because the Federal Reserve actually issues the money and then tells everybody that they're going to issue the money. And that's just so they can front run everybody. But anyway, you know, so yeah, again, this guy completely off his rocker with, you have to have stability about future supply, and you have to have stable value against other goods and against other currencies. Dude, you know what? You can't have stable value against other currencies. Why? Because you're not managing them. You're not managing their monetary policies. You're not determining their issuance rate. You're not determining their supply cap. You got some other monkey behind the curtains with a fucking magic wand, and he's doing all that shit. You can't account for that. Anyway, continuing on. Thus he quipped, quote, "This is just part of the normal currency competition that has been going on for centuries, and the dollar, in his view, will come out on top." Bullard isn't wrong about the current state of Bitcoin price volatility. In the past month, with the price at around $32,000, volatility was at its highest level since March 2020, when its price had just plummeted to $4,000. The price has since spiked to $52,000. It says 50,000, but I updated it. But historic volatility does not necessarily equate to permanent volatility. Last week, Litecoin founder Charlie Lee argued that if the electric car maker Tesla begins accepting Bitcoin, as it plans to do, and doesn't convert the asset immediately into dollars, as it said it might. Quote, "We will start to break out of the fiat system." Bullard isn't buying it, at least not yet. Investors, in his view, don't want a store of value or a means of exchange. They want both. And they can have both. If they just have a fucking QT wallet, they can have their own Bitcoin in their QT wallet, and there you go. Continuing on. Quote, "Investors want a safe haven." Actually, you should be doing that with Verge. Continuing. He said, quote, "They want a stable store of value." No, they don't want a stable store of value. A stable store of value is a dead store of value. And then they want to conduct their investments in that currency. It'd be very hard to get a private currency that's really more like gold to play that role. So I don't think that's where we're going to see any changes in the future. Yeah, dude, this change has already happened. This conversation is already over. I mean, this guy's basically just like talking to himself here. You know, this kind of context to even be talking about Bitcoin was suitable in 2010. You know, like before the pizza event, that's when this guy had a viable argument. But he doesn't anymore. And he doesn't because Bitcoin originally, before the block size limit and all this SegWit bullshit and all this second layer bullshit, before all of that, when the transactions were being processed in an as received fashion, Bitcoin had already destroyed every single other payment system on the planet. And on hardware no more advanced or sophisticated than a desktop circa 2006. That's all you needed. And it didn't even have to be that shit. Mine was like 2000, 2001, maybe 2002. It wasn't much past that though. And it worked just fine. But yeah, these people sadden me because, you know, they weren't here during that time. And so their only context for this conversation, or at least the only one that they bother to put forward, is one where we're involving entities like banks in the monetary policy of Bitcoin as like the prime setters of the conversation. The ones telling everybody else what is what. What this person doesn't understand is that, like, he is the equivalent of a soldier still carrying a sword as his primary weapon in the age of a firearm. Where the firearm took away everything that made that man with the sword more powerful than men without swords. It didn't matter how much armor he had on. It didn't matter how big that sword was. It didn't matter how proficient he was at swinging that sword around. If the person wielding a firearm could aim worth a shit and had the opportunity to train that weapon on that swordsman, he was dead. Pulled the trigger, hammer falls, done ski. Done deal. Neutralized. And it didn't matter who was pulling the trigger. If they could get that fucking weapon trained on him and pull that trigger before he cut their fucking head off, then that peasant, that 12-year-old child, just bested him. Just became his equivalent on the field of battle. Cryptocurrencies have done this to this man, to people like this man. They have reduced him to a swordsman standing in front of an 8-year-old with a fucking revolver. And that revolver made the two equivalent. Cryptocurrencies have done the same to the St. Louis Fed, where Verge currency just suffered an attack, a failed attack, by the way. But we're not going to go into that. We went into that in the last episode. Anyway, it just endured an attack, and it's still in existence, still functional. If the St. Louis Fed were facing a possible chain reorg, where all of the other central banks were looking at their nodes information, and they're saying, hey man, where's all my coins? And the St. Louis Fed is like a third party on top of Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency, and they really have only the feed that they're getting from, you know, whatever cryptocurrency they're tied to. You know, they're not actually doing the mining. They're not actually providing any node support. They're just a vendor. And so they're one of the ones being told, not the ones telling. You know, there still seems to be this illusion that the people that are telling actually have any authority anymore. They don't. Unless they are doing, they have no voice in cryptocurrency. And by doing, I don't mean running around with fucking guns, pointing guns in people's faces, putting people in cages and shit like that. No. I mean actually dedicating hardware, bandwidth, electricity, and time to the maintenance and sustenance of a cryptocurrency. We may, at some point, we may actually see that. Where in an official capacity, a department of a federal government, or a government in general, will enact the existence of a department, and then the purpose of that department will be managing some hash rate on a cryptocurrency network. That very well may be what happens. Personally, I think the best thing that governments can do with regard to cryptocurrencies is just get the fuck out of the way. Shut the fuck up. You got plenty of laws to enforce concerning fraud, concerning theft, concerning manipulation. You've got all the laws that you could possibly need to be able to bring a criminal or civil case to court in the event that there is an aggrieved party. But trying to mold the market ahead of time, I think, is errant. Because the market is not finished expressing, determining how it wants to express itself. And I still believe that there's going to be a period ahead of us wherein the vast majority of the public, having become aware of cryptocurrencies, either through the success of Bitcoin or the success of Ethereum or the integration of either one into their daily lives in some way, shape, or form, that once people do reach that critical mass of interest, and the fact that all of these projects are open source, they're going to start getting under the hood of their own car. They're going to be looking at their cryptocurrencies and saying, hey, can I still take personal ownership of my cryptocurrency, or do I have to keep it with this third-party vendor? And if I can't get it from that third-party vendor, is that cryptocurrency really worth a shit to me? Probably not. I mean, it still has all of the dependencies that my credit card had, where I have people telling me, instead of me judging for myself how to do it. And that's going to be a determining factor in a number of things. Number one, the cryptocurrency that you decide to use, or currencies that you decide to use or store monetary value in. Which exchanges that you intend to do business with. which vendors you decide to do business with, which government regulations are really worthy of your observation. These things will be reduced to individual choice. And some would say that could potentially lead to chaos. But there's a thing that you got to understand, is that for every negative action, there is a reaction. Whether it is immediate or long-term is not for you to determine. But it will happen. All you can do is determine it for yourself. So if you engage in business with somebody and for whatever reason they decide that they do not want to fulfill on the agreed terms, you decide at some future juncture, do I want to continue to do business with this person? Under what terms would I continue to do business with this person? Or should I just warn other people that this guy's a fucking scammer? That'll be left up to you. You know, whether you want to bring some civil or criminal case to court, that will be up to you. I mean, as if it isn't up to you now. But, I mean, the point being is that a lack of intermediaries means a number of things. Among them is that you are the one that is directly responsible for what you will do to be recompensed. You know, but the thing is like the tools that you have available to you to do things like verify whether or not the person actually has the money without actually engaging in the commerce. You can do that now with cryptocurrencies. They can give you a public address for the wallet that they intend to send you money from, and you can verify that address has enough money to pay you and cover the transaction fee before you engage in the commerce. And there's no possible way for you to be able to steal their money by just having the public address. At least not yet. I don't think there ever will be. The point being is they're secure from you being able to steal their money, but you are secure in being able to verify whether or not they actually have access to the funds that needed to complete the commerce between you. And if you're smart, you're actually getting verified data, you know, like their actual name, their actual physical address, you know, things that you can use in the course of trying to be recompensed, or at least have them put in jail. But that is part of your due diligence in any commerce. It's not limited to just cryptocurrencies. But, you know, being able to verify that your transactions occurred, it's a matter of public record. There's no bank records required. You could just give the fucking transaction ID to the cops and say, hey, look, this is where, you know, the transaction happened. Or you know, in this case it happened, but I didn't get paid enough, or whatever. This is the transaction. This was the address that the money was supposed to come out of, and if you look here, you know, this the entire record of that address. It's verifiable public record, unless of course you're on a layer 2 thing, and then that in itself can come into question. But the point being is that it's much easier to verify those aspects of your commerce with cryptocurrencies than it's ever been with fiat currency. It's like, you know, like I said, you would have had to have petitioned the bank for records beyond just your own, you know, that you have access to. You would have to petition them and say, hey, look, you know, I need records for this transaction because, you know, I want to report this thing to the FBI, and then there's a time interval involved and so on and so forth. Like I said, With the FBI, you could just give them the transaction ID. Say, hey, yo, look, this is where it happened. But that's the actual use. That's the actual positive use of these cryptocurrencies, rather than trying to use them in a proactive manner, where we're looking ahead and trying to determine how much to tax certain people, according to their current market worth or whatever. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. Where'd it go? I scrolled all the way back up here to get to Anthrax, and so I hardly ever played Between the Buried and Me. Here we go. Millions by Between the Buried and Me, here on Coin Metal. And that was Korn with Dead Bodies Everywhere. And so, what else we're going to get into today? Got this next one here. It's on Coindesk.com. Institutions not worried about Bitcoin dropping below 40K, options data shows. And this is by Omkar Godbol. So yes, penis. And this is authored February 15th, 2021 at 7:18 a.m. PST. Despite Bitcoin's rapid $3,000 fall from new record highs seen Sunday, institutions seem confident about the cryptocurrency's long-term prospects. Well, shit, their vision is well suited here. The cryptocurrency dropped to $47.90 earlier on Monday, just after failing to pass the psychological hurdle of $50,000 over the weekend. So far, however, there are few signs of preparations for deeper losses in the options market. Quote, there is still an absence of any institutional long-term hedging. In fact, funds continue to take advantage of selling June-December expiry put options at strikes below $40,000, Durbit Insights said in a tweet thread explaining the reasons for the price drop and the resulting changes in options market flows. A put option gives the holder the right, but not the obligation, to sell the underlying asset at a predetermined price on or before a specified date. Investors buy puts, paying a premium when anticipating a price drop, and sell right put options, collecting a premium when they foresee price consolidation or a rally. Currently, large investors are still selling long-term puts below $40,000, showing they are not anticipating an extended/sustained price drop below $40,000. The absence of any implied volatility spike on the drop from 49,000 to 46,000, as well as the price bounce to 48,000, suggests, quote, comfort and consolidation in the mid 40,000 to 50,000 trading range, Durbit Insights said. Quote, this strategy of selling the downside puts is twofold: to get premium theta, which is higher with higher volatilities, and also because the traders don't think a crash will happen before that expiry, said Sean Fernando, head of risk and product at Durbit, the biggest crypto options exchange by trading volume. The six-month put call skew, which measures the cost of puts relative to calls, remains entrenched in the negative territory, supporting Durbit's assessment. The 3-month metric is also hovering below zero, indicating a bullish bias. Had institutions bought long-term puts to position for a deeper price slide, the 6-month put call skew would have turned positive. Further, increased put buying in June and December expiry would have pushed up long-term implied volatility, a measure of investors' expectations of price turbulence. The 6-month IV has dropped from 104.6% to 99.6% in the past 24 hours, while the 1 and 3-month IV lines are following similar trajectories. Selling options, whether put or call, is a limited profit, unlimited loss strategy, generally better left to institutions with a large capital supply. The gain is limited to the extent of the premium received, and loss can be endless, as theoretically an asset can drop to zero or rally to infinity. Yeah, I didn't understand that this is just an analysis. I was really hoping that we get some sort of voice on this particular sentiment. This is just as easily commentary on some sort of miscall by the institutions, that they're heavily invested in Bitcoin, such as like MicroStrategy. They're heavily invested in it, and so their option to quickly divest their Bitcoin is simply not there. They've been quoted as pretty much being very bullish, and I would be willing to bet that they're actually holding Bitcoin. But what the actual volume is and whether or not they have an intermediary between them and it, I couldn't tell you. But yeah, oh wow. Currently Ethereum is at $1,900. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I wanted to get a little bit further into this one. It's on CoinDesk as well. India plans twin taxes on exchanges and traders before passing crypto bill, report. Oh, shit. And this is by Ankar Godbol, so yes, penis. And this is authored February 17th, 2021 at 3:26 p.m. PST. India is reportedly planning a short-term boost to its coffers by ensuring the nation's cryptocurrency space is taxed before bringing in a ban on such assets. The government is likely to impose personal income tax, IT, and the goods and services tax on gains from trading cryptocurrencies and from platform fees, respectively, according to a Wednesday report from Business Standard, one of the largest English-speaking newspapers in India. Quote, Bitcoins will be categorized as financial services, attracting 8% GST on fee commission collected by exchanges under this segment, plus income tax to be paid on the earnings from this, a senior finance ministry official familiar with the matter said. They added that an official circular will be released soon. According to the newspaper's sources, authorities aim to collect both taxes for the fiscal year April 2020 to March 2021. Yeah, good luck with that. The news, if confirmed, is the first clarification on how cryptocurrency industry and its users will be taxed, albeit probably briefly. You know what? I don't think it'll actually ever go into effect. I would classify this as probably rumor. Because the Indians, they like money just like anybody else. Continuing, the government is also planning to introduce a cryptocurrency bill in the ongoing session of Parliament, seeking a ban on, quote, private cryptocurrencies, as well as the formal start of development of a digital currency, of a digital rupee, to be issued by the central bank. The bill's contents are still unknown, and the government is yet to define the term, quote, private cryptocurrencies. India's Minister of State for Financing, Anurag Thakur, has said that the impending bill will fill policy gaps. Yeah, I don't really know that cryptocurrencies could be classified as private, specifically if they are ad hoc networks, such as Bitcoin or Ethereum or even Verge for that matter, that the public is open and capable of connecting to. Now, the SWIFT network, on the other hand, I would classify that as a private cryptocurrency, if at all a cryptocurrency, but not really. Anyway, continuing on. While the government has not specifically declared how crypto gains should be taxed, Nishal Shetty, CEO of Binance-owned WazirX, said crypto earnings are taxable like any other income and should be declared in the income tax returns. Shetty added that its exchange has been voluntarily paying GST on trading fees collected from customers. Oh yeah, of course, because you don't actually have to do anything other than process the transaction for that shit. Continuing. Taxation does not necessarily imply legality, according to another source. Quote, let it be clear that just because income tax or GST has been charged on the transaction, it does not by itself make the transaction legitimate. Taxability and legality of transactions are independent of each other, a senior official at Finance Ministry recently told the Haiku, or Hindu Business Line, rather. In today's report, the anonymous official said cryptocurrencies, while unregulated, have not yet been banned, and taxation rules apply to all kinds of services and commodities. Yeah, I would say a big good luck on that. I don't anticipate that it will actually happen. I've already said that if there is a taxable event, it would be at the point where somebody exchanges cryptocurrency for a fiat currency. You know, a nationally recognized fiat currency. So in the context that we're talking about here, if they were ever to launch their digital rupee, where somebody exchanges, say, XRP for digital rupees, that might be a taxable event, because somebody is assessed a profit per se, and this is again assuming, of course, that their realized profit exceeds their initial investment. So, like if I buy 500 XRP and they go up in value, whether or not I actually sell the entirety of it, I would probably be accountable for whatever profit I did assess, or at least on that basis. So say I liquidate 30% of it. I take the total profit, I assess 30% of that, that's my taxable portion. Or that's my tax, rather. Or taxable percentage. But until I've actually realized a profit in the nationally recognized fiat currency, I don't see that a taxable event has actually occurred. And I think that these people are going to try something at some point, and they're going to see how abysmally it fails. And they'll simply just shut up about it. You know, I mean, we really don't hear too much with regard to articles concerning people paying their taxes or what rate they're paying their taxes in the United States. And I would wager that One of the reasons for that is that the vast majority of people in cryptocurrencies in the United States are simply not reporting their crypto gains or their crypto assets at all. And in all honesty, I don't blame them. I don't at all. I don't think that it is the government's place to tax cryptocurrencies at all. You've got a fiat currency that you can't manage it worth a shit as is, and yet you deign to assume that you can say anything about how cryptocurrencies should operate or how they should be taxed. It's just fucking silliness. It's absolute silliness. Anyway, moving on. I kind of wanted to get into that, but I doubt I will. And so on the regulation front, or regulatory front rather, I got this thing here. It's on CoinDesk again. Ripple SEC say settlement unlikely before trial over alleged securities violations. I think the SEC is flinching. And this is by Tanzil Akhtar. So no penis. And this is authored on February 16th, 2021 at 1:51 a.m. PST. Ablay Tanzil. Anyway, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and Ripple said Monday there's little chance of settlement ahead of the expected trial of the blockchain payments firm over alleged securities infractions. In a discovery letter addressed to federal judge Analisa Torres at the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, the parties said that, having previously discussed the matter, they, quote, do not believe there is a prospect for a settlement at this time. They further noted that previous settlement discussions took place under the Trump administration and were mainly conducted with division directors who have since left the SEC. More visibly, the letter addresses the discovery for the pending trial, with two parties agreeing or not the formal process of exchanging information about the witnesses and evidence they'll be presenting. In December, the SEC sued Ripple over alleged violations of federal securities laws. It said that the company, Brad Garlinghouse, and chairman Chris Larson sold over $1 billion in XRP to retail investors without registering the cryptocurrency as a security or seeking an exemption. Notably, the SEC told the judge in Monday's letter it is, quote, seeking to take 5 depositions beyond the 10 normally allowed over allegations, quote, Ripple and Larson received 2 legal memos warning them that there was some risk that XRP could be considered, quote, investment contracts and therefore securities under the federal securities laws. It doesn't matter what they can be conceived as. Anybody can point at something and say, oh, that's something else. It doesn't make it what they assume it to be, though. In my understanding of XRP tokens, at least, has always been that they are a self-managed cryptocurrency, meaning that Ripple Labs does things like manage the deving of it and whatnot and the management of their network, but that the tokens themselves are not anything other than a product that Ripple Labs manages and sells, of course. Continuing on. Ripple has refused to comply, saying the documents fall under attorney-client privilege, that the SEC's request is, quote, improper and lacks legal foundation. The SEC may ask the court to compel Ripple to provide documents and related deposition testimony, the regulator said in a letter. They may ask the court to compel, but the Ripple Labs can still deny the court. Anyway, continuing. The initial pretrial conference between the defendant, the prosecutor, and the judge will be held on February 22nd. The SEC aims to file a first amended complaint by February 19th, 2021, with the discovery period now set to be complete by August 16th, said the letter. Yeah. And so, I got this thing here, and this is the... Let's see how many pages this is. It's 9 pages. We can do it. We can do it. This is the actual document they were talking about, and apparently it was filed on the 15th of February 2021. Dear Judge Torres, plaintiffs, Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and defendants, Ripple Labs, Inc., Bradley Garlinghouse, and Christian A. Larson, together with Garlinghouse, the individual defendants, respectively submit this letter and the enclosed proposed civil case management plan and scheduling order, proposed order, in advance of the February 22nd, 2021 initial pre-trial conference on this matter. Joint submission by the parties. Pursuant to the court's December 29, 2020 order, DE 6, the parties respectfully inform the court that they do not consent to conducting all further proceedings in this case before the assigned magistrate judge. The parties address below the issues set forth in paragraph 4 of the court's December 29, 2020 initial pretrial conference order, DE 7. 1. Brief description of the case and factual and legal basis for claims and defenses. The SEC's description of its case and its claims. The case involves defendants' $1.38 billion offer and sale of certain digital assets that are, quote, securities under the federal securities laws, and the offer of the sale, or the offer and sale of which therefore required registration with the SEC. Because Ripple never filed a registration statement with the SEC, investors never received the material information that every year hundreds of other issuers of securities provide in registration statements when soliciting public investment. Specifically, defendants, Ripple and its former chief executive officer, CEO Larson, and current CEO Garlinghouse offered and sold over 14.6 billion units of Ripple's digital asset security, commonly known as XRP, from 2013 through the present, the relevant time period, in exchange for cash or other consideration worth over $1.38 billion, and without commission registration. Defendants' unregistered offers and sales of XRP were of, quote, investment contracts and therefore of securities under Sections 2A1, 5A, and 5C of the Securities Act of 1933, 15 U.S.C. 77B, subsection A1, 77E, subsection A, 77E, subsection C, and the definition of, quote, investment contract in SEC versus W.J. Howey & Co. So they're using the Howey test, and later cases. First, the complaint alleges that because defendants each offered and sold securities XRP in interstate commerce without registering such offers and sales, they violated Sections 5A and 5C of the Securities Act. Ripple, over 14.6 billion units worth over $1.38 billion. Larson, over 1.7 billion units of his own XRP for approximately $450 million. And Garlinghouse, approximately 321 million units of his own XRP for approximately $150 million, or $159 million, as the SEC intends to allege in its forthcoming First Amended complaint. The complaint further alleges that defendants sold XRP as, quote, investment contracts under the Howey line of cases, primarily because the economic reality of XRP and the way defendants marketed XRP made a purchase of XRP in exchange for cash or other consideration in an investment into a common enterprise from which investors could reasonably hope to profit based on defendants' entrepreneurial and managerial efforts. Defendants' offers and sales of XRP, as the complaint alleges, were the principal way defendants capitalizes Ripple's business, and defendants took various steps, many but not all of which they touted to the public, to control the supply and price of XRP. Reasonable investors therefore understood that Ripple held most of the XRP supply, and based on defendants' public statements and actions, the defendants had an incentive to, and did, undertake efforts to improve the fortunes of all XRP holders. Second, the complaint alleges that the individual defendants aided and abetted Ripple's violations of Sections 5A and 5C with scienter in violation of Section 15B of the Securities Act, 15 U.S.C. N. 77 OB. The SEC alleges that Larson aided and abetted Ripple's violations from 2013 through 2016, including by deciding when Ripple would offer and sell XRP while he was Ripple's CEO, and from 2015 through present by selling his own XRP. The SEC also alleges that Garlinghouse aided and abetted Ripple's violations from 2015 to the present, including by deciding when Ripple would offer and sell XRP while he was Ripple's COO and then CEO, and by 2017 through the present by selling his own XRP. Defendant's principal response to the allegations is to affix a self-serving label to XRP, currency. The Supreme Court has consistently cautioned against this attempt at misdirection, explaining that, quote, Congress intended the application of the securities laws to turn on the economic realities underlying a transaction and not on the name appended thereto. Yeah, you know what? And by that terminology, XRP isn't a security. So fuck yourself. Continuing on. Let's see. Whole bunch of cases. C. Edwards, blah, blah, blah. Purpose in enacting securities laws was to regulate investments in whatever form they are made and by whatever name they are called. Yeah, in other words, tell you how to do your commerce when they decide they want to tell you how to do your commerce. And they can determine whatever they want is a security and what isn't. That's a fucking tautology. It's not specific enough to be able to apply in everyday average fucking commerce. The average person cannot account for that kind of capricious attitude towards their commerce. They just can't. Continuing on. In whatever form made, in whatever... Accordingly, courts have unanimously rejected Ripple's argument that simply labeling their digital asset security a currency precludes application of the securities laws. Blah, blah, blah. Simply labeling an asset as virtual currency or cryptocurrency does not transform an investment contract into a currency. Bullshit. That's what it was always labeled as. That's what it was always sold as. Somebody else determining later on their determination, their assumption of what Ripple is bullshit. Continuing on, defendants request that this court become the first in the digital asset space to ignore this precedent is not only legally unsound, it is factually problematic. Garlinghouse himself publicly and repeatedly disclaimed thinking about XRP as any kind of currency. And though today defendants come to court pinning the word currency to XRP, Ripple in 2016, not long after the 2015 settlement with the Department of the Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Unit settlement, on which defendants now purport to rely, had its attorneys represent to the New York State Department of Financial Services that XRP2 and Ripple consider XRP a digital asset, not a currency, and that XRP is not intended to be used as a currency. Moreover, XRP is not legal tender in any jurisdiction. It's not legal tender in any jurisdiction. It is not deemed legal tender in any jurisdiction. It's not for anybody to deem it such. Anyway, continuing on. XRP is not, it would be a government to determine whether or not Ripple is legal tender. Continuing on. Let's see. It's not intended, blah, blah. And Ripple did not sell XRP to persons who intended to use XRP as currency. That's fucking irrelevant. They intended to use it as an investment, good for them. I intended to use it as an investment. However, I am fully aware that I am capable of using XRP as money. Not just currency, money. There is a known, worldwide acknowledged exchange rate for it. Continuing on. In short, defendants claim that in litigation that XRP is a quote currency is a canard. No, bullshit. Defendants promoted and sold XRP as an investment that purchasers reasonably believed would increase in value and price based on Ripple's touted efforts, its self-described XRP strategy to create an active and liquid trading market for XRP and other infrastructure for XRP. Ripple itself understood this when it asked a funding investment in XRP to disclose to investors that, quote, the Ripple ecosystem reliance on the efforts of Ripple Labs, the single largest holder of XRP, to promote and expand the ecosystem creates greater risk than XRP might be deemed as a security as compared with other virtual currencies. It's because they did assume onto themselves the responsibilities of an issuer. Continuing on. XRP might be deemed a security as compared to other virtual currencies, as the SEC alleges and the evidence will show. Ripple was the principal party behind the success or failure of this ecosystem. Under Howey, defendants offered and sold an investment contract. No, they sold a cryptocurrency. The SEC therefore seeks permanent injunctions prohibiting defendants from violating Section 5 of the Securities Act, plus disgorgement and prejudgment interest on the disgorgement amount and civil penalties from each defendant pursuant to Sections 20B and 20D of the Securities Act. And, let's see here. A whole bunch of case stuff in to permit the SEC to seek disgorgement for any violations of the federal securities laws. Ripple's description of its defenses. This case raises the question of whether Ripple's distributions of XRP are quote, offers and sales of investment contracts and therefore of securities that require registration under Section 5 of the Securities Act of 1933. They are not. XRP is a digital currency. Like Bitcoin or Ether, two other digital assets that the SEC has concluded are not securities, XRP serves as a medium of exchange that has been adopted by millions of people around the globe. The underlying ledger technology, called the XRP ledger, allows for quick, reliable, and secure validation of transactions. These features make XRP ideal for international transactions as a bridge currency. And you know what? That description right there of Ripple, that was my understanding of what Ripple was originally. Continuing. Let's see here. As the complaint alleges, XRP has been circulating publicly since at least 2013 and today trades in a robust worldwide market with billions of dollars in daily trading volumes. Ripple's own transactions in XRP are a fraction, less than 1%, of this market. Regulators in other countries, including Japan, the United Kingdom, and Singapore, have correctly found XRP to be a currency and not a security. In its complaint, the SEC asserts for the first time that all of Ripple's sales going back 8 years have been a single offering of unregistered securities and seeks penalties and injunctive relief against Ripple on the theory that Ripple has violated Section 5 of the Securities Act 15 U.S.C. 77E, but it offers nothing other than its own say-so that XRP is a, quote, an investment contract and, on that basis, a security. The SEC is wrong. Ripple's distributions of XRP do not constitute investment contracts and therefore are not securities transactions subject to Section 5's registration requirement. First, XRP is a digital currency or asset. The SEC's allegation that Ripple's sales of XRP constituted a, quote, investment contract lacks any legal or factual basis. The evidence will show that Ripple has sold XRP as an asset with no promise of future services or profits. To call such sales investment contracts distorts the statutory language beyond recognition. Indeed, in many instances, the people who bought XRP did not even know that Ripple was the seller because they were sellers of XRP other than the defendants, and open market XRP sales are generally anonymous. Moreover, the terms of Ripple's sales impose no obligations on Ripple beyond the delivery of the XRP it was selling. Ripple's sales of XRP were not, quote, investment contracts under any reasonable definition of the term. Goddamn right. Second, the SEC's reliance on the SEC v. W.J. Howie Co. 328 U.S.C. 293 1946 to demonstrate that Ripple's sales of XRP were made pursuant to, quote, investment contracts, notwithstanding the plain text of the law, is misplaced. Howie does not give the SEC jurisdiction over simple asset sales, and its application shows that sales of XRP were not investment contracts. Under Howie, the SEC must show, among other things, that Ripple and purchasers of XRP entered into a quote, common enterprise dependent on Ripple's, quote, managerial efforts. The SEC cannot do so. The evidence will show that there was no common enterprise and that any increases in value XRP holders received were not dependent on Ripple's actions. Typical purchasers of XRP had no ongoing relationship with Ripple, no claim to Ripple's profits, and no right to require Ripple to do anything at all. The SEC focuses on Ripple's purchases and sales of XRP, which it claims Ripple used to, quote, control the supply and price of XRP, but the SEC's premise is wrong. Ripple does not, quote, control the price of XRP. The price of XRP moves in conjunction with other digital currencies such as Bitcoin and Ether, not based on the efforts of Ripple. XRP existed before Ripple, and if Ripple opted to cease operations entirely, XRP would continue to exist and would continue to have a significant value as a digital currency. The SEC's only response is that Ripple has merely slapped a label, quote, currency on XRP and ignored the economic substance of XRP as a, quote, investment contract. This is flatly incorrect. First, it is not Ripple that labeled XRP as a currency. It was the DOJ and FinCEN that did so in 2015, and the evidence will show that the government considered XRP to be a prominent example of a virtual currency even earlier. Second, the FinCEN interpretive letter that the SEC now points to in Fin 2 makes clear that FinCEN does not, quote, differentiate between real currencies and convertible virtual currencies. Third, this is not just a matter of labels. XRP2 LLC, Ripple's wholly owned subsidiary, has been registered and has been supervised as a money service business with FinCEN since 2015 and since 2016 by the New York Department of Financial Services as a, quote, virtual currency firm, precisely because XRP is a virtual currency. Oh shit, I didn't even know that they were registered with FinCEN and the NYDFS. I mean, that in itself is so big because the NYDFS is like the head of the Federal Reserve System. Continuing on. More fundamentally, the SEC has taken its quotes out of context, as Ripple explains above, whether referred to as a digital currency or a digital asset. The economic realities underlying transactions in XRP are fundamentally different from those of a, quote, investment contract. Ripple's transactions in XRP all involved a similar transfer of an asset for value with no promise of future services or profits. The terms of Ripple's sales impose no obligations on Ripple beyond delivery of the XRP it was selling. Purchasers of XRP have no ongoing relationship with Ripple, no claim to Ripple's profits, no ownership interest in Ripple, and no right to require Ripple to do anything at all. Neither the Supreme Court nor the Second Circuit Court has found an investment contract within the meaning of the 1933 Act without an express agreement governing the terms of an investment of funds for profit. Accordingly, Ripple's ongoing sales of XRP cannot be considered a securities offering. It is crucial that the court adjudicate this issue promptly. The SEC's complaint asks this court to bar Ripple permanently from, quote, delivering XRP to any persons or otherwise participating in any offering of digital asset securities. See complaint, prayer for relief, 1 through 3, 1 and 3. The sweeping request has caused havoc in an otherwise orderly market, as market participants have come to the conclusion that the SEC intends to impose a regulatory structure on XRP that does not apply to other digital assets such as Bitcoin and Ether. Doubt as to XRP's regulatory status has harmed not only Ripple, but also thousands of non-parties that integrate XRP into products or offerings or otherwise support XRP. In the wake of the SEC's complaint, XRP holders, including millions of innocent retail holders of XRP with no connection to Ripple, suffered losses of more than $15 billion in market value. I would wager that it's much higher than that in opportunity loss. Ripple proposed and agreed to a rapid discovery schedule in this case to enable Ripple to file a motion for summary judgment as soon as possible. It respectfully urges the court to bring this case to a just and speedy resolution and to remove the cloud that the SEC's misguided actions have cast over all participants in the XRP market, myself included. Individual defendants' description of their defenses. This case represents a gross overreach by the SEC. The claims against the individual defendants are meritless and unprecedented, and any relief is barred. The individual defendants had a well-defended belief, or well-founded belief, that XRP is not and never has been a security, and have always maintained publicly and otherwise that XRP was not a security. The declarations of other government departments confirmed the reasonableness of their views. In 2015, the Department of Treasury Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, and the Department of Justice declared that XRP was a currency and subsequently regulated XRP as a currency. The SEC provided no guidance to the market until 5 years after it alleges Ripple and Larson began unlawfully selling XRP and filed no complaint against Ripple or the individual defendants for another 3 years thereafter, all while concluding that two similar digital assets, Bitcoin and Ether, were not securities. The SEC's posture with respect to XRP permitted a thriving $20 billion daily trading market to grow, and then filed its complaint on December 22, 2020, devastating the XRP secondary market on the eve of a change in administration. The SEC compounds its unprecedented and gross overreach by attempting to sustain claims against the individual defendants for aiding and abetting an offense requiring knowing or reckless conduct, despite the fact that it took the SEC 8 years to determine its own position. The SEC's claims will fail for the following reasons, among others. First, the reasons set forth above by Ripple, XRP is not an investment contract, and therefore both counts of the SEC's complaint fail as to the individual defendants. The SEC highlights out-of-context statements by Garlinghouse, expressed by his layman's view that he rarely used the term cryptocurrency to describe XRP or Bitcoin, which the SEC has concluded is not a security, What the SEC omits is that Garlinghouse has always rejected the notion that XRP was a security, and that neither Garlinghouse nor any other Ripple executive ever suggested that XRP gave purchasers any rights in Ripple, the hallmark of an investment contract. Second, the complaint does not, and the SEC cannot, adequately allege a violation of Section 5 as to the individual defendants, because it does not plead that each alleged sale or offer of XRP was within the territorial scope of the federal securities laws as required by Morrison v. National Australian Bank Ltd, US 247 2010. Indeed, the complaint fails to plead a single transaction that satisfies Morrison. Third, the claims against individual defendants for aiding and abetting fail because the SEC does not allege that they knew or recklessly disregarded that XRP was an investment contract and that Ripple's unregistered offers and sales of XRP were improper. The complaint also does not allege that Larson substantially assisted the primary complaint, nor that Garlinghouse did so while he was Ripple's COO in 2015. Fourth, any monetary relief is barred pursuant to the Supreme Court's decision in Liu vs. SEC 140 Supreme Court 1936, 2020, or by the statute of limitations. Contemplated motions. On January 27, 2021, pursuant to Rule 3b2 of the Court's individual practices, the individual defendants informed the SEC by letter that they intended to move to dismiss the claims against the individual defendants. Ripple answered the complaint on January 29, 2021. On February 3, 2021, the SEC replied to the letters and informed the individual defendants that it intends to file a First Amended complaint. The SEC intends to file a First Amended complaint by February 19, 2021, within 21 days of Ripple's answer, pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 15a-IB, to try and narrow any disputes as to the sufficiency of the allegations. The individual defendants intend to review the SEC's First Amended complaint and will determine whether to file a motion to dismiss based on the allegations therein. And you know what? We're going to have to wrap it up right there. We're actually on page 7 of 9, so it wasn't that much further. But we do have to cut it off with that. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate your support. We will be back again on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And so as far as our last dance is concerned, of course, I have not picked anything out. But I did have one or two in mind, because we have a little bit of a stretch left ahead of us here, but really not enough to continue on with what we were reading. Here we go. Machine Head, 1,000 Lies, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.